And this is the second time in as many weeks where we've seen Soul Sisters do well in a tournament. We've had one getting very close to top 8ing the Invitational 2 weeks ago. Both times they're splashing red for Norn the Wary, this Norn the Wary and Genesis Chamber and Perforos God of the Forge package. I used to think this was something cute that the deck did, but generally was not as good. Maybe it's just powerful.
You see some games where people just die to this interaction. When this deck is humming, it's very powerful.
All right, Brett will be on the play, and he'll start on Champion of the Parish. This is the 1-mana 1/1 that grows for each human he plays. He was on the mulligan to 6. You see only 4 cards remaining in his hand.
Champion of the Parish is not at its best in a matchup like this. Majors is not at all shy on removal spells, especially
this creature's gonna get killed.
He doesn't just have lightning bolts; he has those seal of fires, as we said. So a lot of 1-mana answers to the champion.
Somehow finds its way up to a 4/4 before it gets killed, which is a big if. How does Michael deal?
We have 2 Terminates in the 1 Slaughter Pact, or we have to catch it in combat or use 2 spells.
Okay, so if red gets it to a 4/4, that's inconvenient, but not the worst.
Not the end of the... Grixis can beat anything, as I'm sure you're aware.
Oh, okay. Sounds like a great deck.
It is.
Michael will fetch for a Steam Vents on the play on turn 1. So he takes 3 damage to do this, goes to 17, starts the game on a copy of Serum Visions.
I like aggressively fetching duels, especially when my opponent leads on basic planes. This is something that I see a lot of players sequence differently. They might find the island on turn 1 because they're not using the red mana right away. But there's just going to be a time when Grixis ends up very color hungry. When you get to like turn 4, that you'll wish that you fetch duels if you end up finding your basics too aggressively. So
Michael put a Snapcaster Mage on top of the deck to draw for next turn. And while he's tapped down, you talked about the possibility of Spell Snare. Brett is going to go for Genesis Chamber. This card you said can do a lot of work in the matchup if Michael can't answer it. Whenever a non-token comes into play, this is for both players, mind you. If Genesis Chamber is untapped, which it will be, that player gets a 1/1 mirror artifact creature.
Yeah, so now with the Genesis Chamber in play, there's a lot of pressure on Majors to find Kolaghan's command exactly.
Yeah, that would be great. It would kill Champion of the Parish and blow up Genesis Chamber. It's going to be Mentor of the Meek will be the attempted play for Brett.
This is a combo we see right here.
Yeah, this plus Genesis Chamber seems sick. Mentor of the Meek, whenever a small creature comes into play for Brett, he may pay 1 and draw a card.
Genesis Chamber makes a 1/1 token.
Yeah, every creature draws a card, makes it to... Oh, Michael's going to mana leak.
Yeah, and it's just power 2 or less, so Mentor does get a trigger on the tokens from Genesis Chamber. So the
yeah, it's great.
The mana leak there was pretty big for Majors.
So Majors down to 14 off his own lands, and that hit from Champion of the Parish. We'll see if he has that Kolaghan's command. It looks pretty juicy right now, and he does.
Yeah, being able to kill the Champion and the Genesis Chamber just by casting 1 spell, and he still has like 1,000 cards in his hand.
I can't imagine he'll do anything else. This is too good to pass up. And fetching down to 13.
Major's deck, 3 mana leaks in his deck, 2 Spell Snare. It's unlikely that he's hanging out on a counter spell. I think we're just going to go for Kolaghan's command here.
Look at the confidence in this board state. Michael went ahead and got Watery Grave as opposed to just a basic island. Went down to 11, and yeah, 2 damage to the Champion of the Parish and destroy target artifacts. He will get both of Brett's cards.
Yep. Well, once again, the Grixis deck just really needs its mana online. I like finding the duel there, even if it seems dicey going down to 11.
Mentor of the Meek to play for Brett.
Other factor to that, Majors has a Kalitas in his hand already, so he can start turning that life loss around.
Yeah, Kalitas is a 3/4 lifelink. The White-Red Soul Sisters, outside of Path to Exile, does not have kill spells for a card like Kalitas. So Michael will terminate away the Mentor. He will then delve, it looks like, a full 5 cards for Tassiger the Golden Fang and play a Creeping Tar Pit.
Tassiger, of course, has a Sultai kind of color identity, but he's an honorary member of the Grixis clan.
He sees more playing Grixis than Sultai.
Correct.
Cavern of Souls played for Brett. That will name human. That could matter down the line. You see he'll play Ranger of Eos off it.
Yep. Michael Major still has 2 mana leaks in his deck, and Snapcaster mana leak is a good line for, say, future Ranger of Eos. That's offline now. So
yeah. 2 cards, another Champion of the Parish for Brett, and here's the interesting one in his deck. He got a copy of Norrin the Wary. Now, if you haven't seen this card before, that makes sense. This one, a real weirdo out of Time Spiral. Norrin is a 2/1, and the flavor is that he's quite the coward. Whenever anyone plays a spell or any creature attacks, Norrin the Wary runs away into exile, and then at the end of the turn, he comes back.
On its own merits, Norrin the Wary is an unplayable Magic card. If it attacks itself, it just gets removed from combat.
It scares itself when it attacks. It doesn't do anything.
Right. So we play this card specifically for the interactions with Mentor of the Week, with Champion of Paris, and with Genesis Chamber, triggering all those enter the battlefield triggers, drawing the extra cards, making the 1/1s, pumping the champion. By itself, the card is actually just a blank.
You mean turn 1 Norrin the Wary doesn't really get your attack going?
Yeah, like actually shocking to cast a Norrin the Wary, probably not a great line.
So Brett on his turn will cast both those cards he found. Champion Parish will go up to a 2/2. Now he has to keep pace here. On Michael's turn, Michael swung for 4 with the Tasigur and then played a copy of Kalidas. And now we'll try to get some triggers going. He plays a Johnny's Pride Mate. Norrin runs away. Norrin comes back on end step. Champion the Parish up to 3/3. It's getting there, but it's not big enough yet.
Right.
We talked about how that 4/4 is really, that's the size he needs to get Champion of the Parish to.
Well, even right now, it's smaller than both creatures that Majors controls.
Right, Majors will attack with both. Yep, Norrin will run away. Norrin doesn't want any part of Kalidas.
Yeah, Majors reminding Brett about the Norrin trigger. It's beneficial for Brett, so that's good guy Mike Majors right there. Even though the trigger is good for his opponent, make sure that it's remembered. Playing it by the book, like that a lot.
7 damage in. Brett will go down to 9. Michael will gain 3 life, back up to 14. All right, now that attack's over, Norrin will come back. Champion of the Parish to now a 4/4. 4 mana up for Majors, though.
He's up to something.
Yeah.
And it's not just activating Creeping Tar Pit to block. I can tell you that much.
Maybe activating Tasigur, or we think more?
If your hand is not very good, activating Tasigur is good. And as you delve to cast Tasigur in the Grixis control deck, you're very mindful of what you leave behind in your graveyard.
His graveyard is just Kolaghan's Command and Terminate right now, either which I think he'd be happy to draw.
Brett would, of course, give him the Kolaghan's Command because the Terminate could actually deal with the champion right now. So I expect we're casting a spell.
So here is an attack for Brett with all the creatures. Well, not Norrin, of course. Snapcaster Mage is the play for Michael Majors. He will give flashback to Terminate and terminates the Champion of the Parish. That's the way to deal with a 4/4. You talked about how Terminates and Slaughter Pacts. And Fling is the play for Brett. This is a 1-of in his main deck. I bet that Majors didn't see this one coming.
That's a spicy meatball right there.
So he will sacrifice, it's a difficult cost, he'll sacrifice Champion of the Parish, and he can deal 4 damage to any target. Now, when Champion of the Parish was sacrificed, it gets exiled, and Majors gets a zombie because of the Kalidas in play. But 4 damage will be thrown to Kalidas.
Fling is a card you put in this deck. It's a way to win with your creature deck through something like Ensnaring Bridge. And hey, sometimes it's just a good removal spell, and when your opponent points a removal spell at your creature, you just sacrifice that creature, get yourself a nice little 2-for-2.
And now we go to blocks. That zombie and the Snapcaster Mage, everything could trade here, and everything will trade.
Yep, even with that Fling play, though, this turn was very good for Major's development.
Last play for Brett. And then we'll go when Norrin comes back. He is out of cards. Creeping Tar Pit, yeah, might become an issue. Here's Majors. Tar Pit turns into a 3/2. Tasigur will attack.
Yep.
Norrin will run away. Norrin needs to be blocking now. He's got to find some courage.
Unfortunately, this is not the Wizard of Oz, and he never will have a heart or a courage or a brain. He's got nothing.
3 damage from the Tar Pit. Tasigur will go ahead and take care of the Pride Mates. Here, now Norrin comes back.
And this is the stage of the game where Grixis starts playing a lot more like a burn deck. It's just, I'm going to deal damage to you. You're at 6. There's Lightning Bolts in my deck. I have Creeping Tar Pit. I'm going to kill you somehow. With mana untapped and with Majors having not played a land in a while, you don't want to just activate the Tar Pit and have it hit by a Path to Exile. So that is a concern for Majors. The game is not locked up just yet.
Tasigur will attack. Norrin will run away. 4 damage in. Brett down to 2. Could have a Lightning Bolt maybe. He'll cast Serum Visions.
Majors has a copy of Ancestral Vision in his hand. That should not be coming into play this game.
Yeah, Slaughter Pact, Ancestral Vision. It seems unlikely that Brett will be able to survive Majors' next attack. And very relevant, Majors is going to suspend 2 copies of Ancestral Visions here.
So now the question is, how many time counters will still be on these visions when the game ends?
3 each.
3 each. Okay. So you're saying next turn 100%.
I think so. Sacred Foundry for Brett.
All right, this is your window.
My window. 3. Michael ticks down those Ancestral Visions. I like the style play. What Michael is saying is, look, I can throw these cards away. Michael will cast Inquisition of Kozilek. Norn runs away. A Lightning Helix goes upstairs. 5 and 11 are life totals now. So Michael will shock, activate Creeping Tar Pit, swing for 7. Brett, no cards, no blockers. We're on to game 2. Michael Majors wins the first game.
Yeah, and so this is a deck built to highlight the strengths of Norn the Wary. On that mulligan to 6 with Majors having that Kolaghan's command to clean up at that exact right window, this game actually ended up highlighting the card's weaknesses. So Brett's really hoping that he's able to show those strengths off in the following game. This was not a great showing for the deck. It has a lot more explosive potential to that. So he's hoping to get some things to stick in the sideboard games.
So we're going to look at the sideboards. We'll start with White-Red Soul Sisters, deck which I'll admit I don't see very often, so I'm kind of curious what's in his sideboard. He has a lot of 2-ofs, so 2 of Blood Moon, 2 Katakis, 2 Leyline of Sanctities, 2 Wear Tears, 2 Stony Silence, 2 Rest in Peace, and then 3 1-ofs, a Suppression Field, a Ghostly Prison, and a Shatter Storm.
So even though Majors is a red deck, Blood Moon is impactful. As I said, the deck wants to aggressively find dual lands. It also uses Creeping Tar Pit, so Blood Moon's going to be good here. Leyline of Sanctity is an option. Majors has access to both discard and burn spells. So I imagine we'll see that one come in, and typically my white opponents do bring in Leylines against me. And then Rest in Peace is actually quite good here. You have Tasigur and Snapcaster Mage on the opponent's side. You not only make Tasigur just a 6-mana spell, but also its ability just doesn't do anything. So it's just a 6-mana 4/5, and you stop Snapcaster Mage from being anything more than a 2-mana 2/1. Then Major's sideboard, there's all kinds of goodies hiding out over here.
All right, we have 2 Dispels, a Slaughter Pact, a Negate, 2 Vandal Blast, 2 Fulminator Mage, a Goblin Dark Dwellers, 2 Anger of the Gods, a Dark Blast, an Izzet Staticaster, and 2 copies of Thoughtseize. There's a lot of creature removal, and I imagine he wants at least some of it for the matchup.
Yeah, I like Staticaster a lot. There's a lot of X1 bodies. The Genesis Chamber makes a bunch of 1/1 mirrors. It would unfortunately kill Major's mirrors as well, but that's not
fine.
Not really an issue. I like Anger of the Gods here. There's a lot of creatures on the other side of the battlefield. If you can get it under Champion of the Parish being a 4-power creature, that's going to be great. And then I have to imagine that Goblin Dark Dwellers is actually a card that you're bringing in probably close to 80-90% of your matchups. You just figure out what the best sorcery speed spells in your deck are, get your deck configured to capitalize on that, and then use Dark Dwellers for redundancy.
What I'm interested in is there's a balancing act between being able to kill small creatures and large creatures. So when I look at Brett's creature base, I see Norn the Wary, Genesis Chamber, Soul's Warden, Soul's Attendant. Okay, when I look at those cards, my thought is, I want Staticaster, I want Dark Blast, I want Anger of the Gods. But then I look at cards like Champion of the Parish and start saying, wait, maybe I need the big things. Maybe I need Slaughter Pact. Maybe I want Terminate. How does Michael bridge that gap?
Well, the thing about Terminate, that it being an element of this deck, is that it's so efficient, that it's good against small creatures and large creatures. So you're really not making any concession by leaving that in against small decks or having it for big decks. So it's just great to have that stick around. A concerning card is Ranger of Eos, because it's not just one body. It ends up getting you 3 bodies. So for that reason, we could even see Majors bringing in Thoughtseize in a matchup where it's not that exciting of an option, but there's that one card that he really, really wants to tag.
All right, we have an exciting announcement here after the first game before we get ready for the second one. So if you tuned in 2 weeks ago, you saw Max McVitie's trip to the Invitational Finals, eventually becoming the Season 1 champion on the SCG Tour. Did it with a mono-white Humans deck in Standard and Infect in Modern, had that 1-2 punch. So in addition to being invited, first of all, winning the first prize and everything that comes with it, getting the invite to the Players' Championship, he also got his namesake, his likeness on a token. Now, Max McVitie chose the Clue token. This is from Limited in Shadows over Innistrad. Also, he said the Thraben Inspector's in his deck, the Declaration of Stones in his deck, make the token. That's what he chose. Now, starting May 13th, which is our next open, you're going to get a copy of this card. And you see here, this is the art for the token. We see Max over here dressed up in the style of Innistrad, really contemplating this clue here.
This is a fantastic token.
So there's a lot going on here. First of all, I love the period art on Shadows over Innistrad. So another great art here by Kristen Plesko. At the same time, one thing you might know about Max is he is currently studying mechanical engineering in school, and that was incorporated into the art of this clue token. He's studying various, well, I suppose we're in Innistrad, so it's not, we had to throw, maybe go to a mechanical engineering student of 100 years ago.
Right, and he's got that kind of like robot lamp thing on his shoulders. That's
sure,
really
that
cool.
Makes sense.
I don't know if there's a word for what that is, but I like it.
Yeah, so this limited edition invitational token will be given away to all open participants and classic participants. So whether you're playing whatever format you play on the weekend, you'll receive one of these tokens, starting at our next open in Indianapolis in 2 weeks. And we'll get those, and that will be happening through all of Season 2, so that's through August. Now, if you want to make it out to here, you can get one of these tokens. If maybe you're on the West Coast and it's very far to make it out to one of the SCG open events, you also can get one of these by placing an order from StarCityGames.com. Every time you order cards from us, if the order is at least $5, well, these tokens will be shipped with the order.
What I really like about this is for Max McVitie specifically, it's reminiscent of the Tom Ross Infect token, where something happens in the game and he's like, here, I'll Declaration and Stone your creatures. You get a Max.
Yeah, I definitely, if I had a token, I would want it to be something that my deck makes. Something that I play.
I think it's bonus points for it being something you give your opponent.
Oh, okay, yeah. That is excellent. Most time people play tokens where it's your own thing, right?
Yeah. No offense to the Caleb Shearer Storm token. That's really cool. That's a cool counter.
But his opponent's not going to use those. Caleb's going to use those.
Exactly. You can use them on your opponent's turn just to like, oh, look, Storm's at 2. You're doing a good job.
Here you go. Have another one. Sure. And a great run there for McVitie. We'll see him in December at the Players' Championship, where he'll compete for that first prize. And we're back for game number 2 here between Brett Warriner and Michael Majors. Brett is down a game. He will start on Cavern of Souls, Naming Human, and Soul's Attendant.
Yep, Cavern of Souls is pretty good against a select few number of cards in Major's deck. It's those Mana Leaks and Spell Snares. I don't know if we're leaving Mana Leak in this matchup. I assume it's coming out.
Yeah, I was going to ask, the uncounterability, how much does it matter in the post-sideboard games? I imagine the counter spells are not very good here.
Right. We know that the opponent has Ranger of Eos. We know that it's a problematic card, but we also know that they have Cavern of Souls. So it's a balancing act that it's tough to figure out. I assume that Mana Leak did come out for this matchup.
That's interesting. Michael plays Darkslick Shores and passes. Brett hit for 1 with Soul's Attendant. Brett had a copy of Soul Warden in hand, but elected to not cast it.
Presumably respecting something like a Pyroclasm effect.
An Inquisition of Kozak on turn 2 from Majors. We see a Path to Exile, a Soul Warden, a Ranger of Eos. Now Michael can't take that one. It costs 4.
Yep, Majors is really hoping to find a Thoughtseize in the next turn cycle here, or hopefully already has one. Because Thoughtseize, given the Cavern of Souls on Human in play, that's going to be his only way to cleanly deal with that Ranger.
The one of Fling is the red card in Brett's hand.
There's just no way that that's the pick. So
no, you just want to take the creatures. He'll take Soul Warden. Now, Brett didn't cast Soul Warden here. He's worried maybe about a sweeper?
Yeah, you know, Majors does have, no, he doesn't, he has 2 Anger of the Gods, right. So those are real cards he's respecting, not on this turn.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised, you know, if you're in the market to put a lot of 1/1s for 1 in your deck. I suppose it's not a lot of extra damage.
The Ranger of Eos helps make it so he can recover a board, and given that he has that, I also like respecting the sweeper even less when you have the ability to just recover. Because the way it's kind of drawn up right now, he's setting himself up to play an anemic game, and Grixis wants the game to take forever.
And you see Michael showing some confidence again. He chose to play a Steam Vents untapped so that he could play Serum Visions this turn. He certainly could have just played a tap land and delayed that, but Michael I don't think he's feeling very much pressure coming from the Soul Sisters deck.
This is where that sideboard Blood Moon could be a huge impact.
Oh, wow, yeah, Brett drew that.
And I don't know if that's something that's necessarily on Major's radar. We don't know how red our opponent's deck is. Presumably it's kind of a splash, but there's probably a lot of basic planes. So it's very likely that Majors is actually kind of shy on lands. He doesn't really have the option.
Brett is going to attack Michael down to 15, then plays Champion of the Parish for the turn. That's just a 1/1. It will grow next turn from the Ranger of Eos.
So now with the Champion of the Parish, I definitely would have liked to see the other 1-mana creature come down on this turn.
For Michael, it is Seal of Fire, and then a tapped Blood Crypt. Brett draws Windswept Heath for the turn. That's land 4. Imagine he'll just go for this. It's uncounterable.
Yeah, Ranger's coming down. We're going to search for the creatures at the same time as the land. Save some time on that shuffling.
Yeah, he'll verbally say, I'm getting this land, I'm playing this. So yeah, he got a Plains with the Windswept Heath, and now he's going to get 2 1-drop creatures. We do see while he's shuffling through the deck that both Blood Moon and Rest in Peace have been sideboarded in. Yep.
He has those kind of Haymakers cards. Major's deck is all about nickel and diming. He doesn't have that level of impactful sideboard cards. He has some that are very good. But, you know, Brett, when you have access to Blood Moon, I have to imagine you're bringing in aggressively.
Soul Warden and Norin the Wary are the cards that Brett found. So that's a lot of triggers for Champion of the Parish. I'm a little surprised he got another Soul Warden as opposed to another Champion of the Parish here.
Yeah, so he's playing a line. It seems like he's not very interested in playing too much to the board at one time. So he's not looking to go crazy and build a bunch of big Champion of the Parish. I don't know, maybe he's concerned about Damnation as well.
Yeah, and I mean, there is a tell here. So he attacked Michael down to 12. Michael could have sacrificed Seal of Fire to kill that Champion of the Parish and just didn't. If that's true, if I'm the aggro player, I'm thinking Sweeper.
Yeah, Majors is saying, I want the Seal of Fire later. Also saying that
I don't need it right now.
I can take that 2 damage and I'll be fine. He's saying, hey, my hand's really good.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd think that hitting Champion of the Parish with Seal of Fire, that's a big win. Now, we'll see. Maybe Michael has Kalitas in hand, in which case I definitely would take the damage.
Right, then you get to make that 2/2 zombie.
Yeah, I'll take 2 damage to make a zombie. That seems fine. Or Sweeper. Anger of the Gods is the play for Majors. Brett will lose all the creatures.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that Majors was representing, and none of them were good for Brett.
Right. The more I'm watching this game, this seems like it's just one of those tough matchups for Soul Sisters. Michael seems to have too much removal.
Well, particularly in Game 1, that Colligan's command was huge. The printing of that
Champion of the Parish and Genesis Chamber both.
If the matchup was bad before, it's gotten worse.
Brett will play a Soul Warden and pass the turn. Michael will play a Kalitas. This just isn't fair. The creatures are of such wildly different quality.
And Majors gets to just sit on the Seal of Fire, and he gets to crack that whenever he wants to crack it.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to walk into a Path to Exile in response or anything like that. And he can just attack with the Kalitas on this board, whatever.
You see Norin the Wary is the play for Brett. He'll gain a life. Michael not going to use the seal yet. Just he knows about Path to Exile in Brett's hand, so he actually doesn't want to use the seal until Brett pulls the trigger.
Right.
Kalitas will attack. Norin runs away. Now Brett will go for a Path to Exile. We'll see if Majors wants to cash in. With Path to Exile on the stack, he'll use Seal of Fire on Soul Warden. That means Michael gets a zombie. The Soul Warden is exiled.
Yep. No reason to really leave that value on the table. Going forward, he's going to have access to as much mana as he needs, can cast spells instead of just using the one on the board.
Now the Path to Exile resolves, and Michael will get a basic land. It's an island into play tapped.
This helps him conceal the fact that he does have a Lightning Bolt in his hand when you use the Seal of Fire that aggressively.
Yeah. You see Michael still with 6 cards in hand. He'll suspend an Ancestral Visions. Why not have some more cards?
So I think this one's actually going to make it to 0.
Yeah, with Brett at 22, I think I agree.
I'm taking the under on 0.5 time counters on this vision.
I want to say that this Ancestral Visions, when it comes off suspend, is going to win the game for Michael. If Brett has not made significant inroads on the board, Michael getting 3 more cards could just end things.
It will be quite difficult to lose from that point. I'm inclined to agree.
Brett's play was another Soul Warden. Norin comes back. Brett goes to 23. No more plays, though. Back to Majors we go. Ancestral Visions ticks down to 3. Zombie attacks. Norn runs away.
So given the interaction between the Soul Warden and the Norn, the zombie's only really getting in for 1 damage. But even still, his board presence is better than Brett's at this stage in the game.
Inquisition of Kozilek reveals Path to Exile and Fling. He takes the Path to Exile. Now, Fling is looking really bad in this matchup right now because what Michael's doing is he's just opting to kill all of Brett's creatures and leave him with the Fling.
So the thing about Fling, you want to be able to use it in response to a removal spell. The issue in this matchup is that Majors is going to kill every creature before they're juicy enough to fling for any real value.
Yeah, you're going to get 1 or 2 damage off the Fling.
Right.
In that case, it's no better than a Lightning Bolt. It's
right.
worse than a Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, exactly.
Blood Moon the draw for Brett. It certainly is a good card in this matchup. Now, Michael has gotten basic Island and basic Swamp already.
That Blood Moon would have won the game on turn 3. Majors had to fetch to find that first basic land. At this stage in the game, I think we're just too far gone.
Yeah, and the second one was off Path to Exile.
Right.
Norn comes back, Brett back up to 23.
That's something that's really awkward, having Path to Exile and Blood Moon in your deck at the same time.
Yeah,
you can get bit pretty hard for that.
You have to know that they're both there and maybe just don't use the Path to Exile.
I don't know. I'm just like not a Blood Moon guy in general, so I don't know. Maybe it's fine. But
oh yeah, I love it when people don't play Blood Moon. That's great. That card's horrible. You should all cut it from all your decks.
I'm fine with other people playing Blood Moon.
Yeah, I'm less fine with that. Michael will play another copy of Cletus. You mentioned there were 3 copies in this Grixis deck?
Oh, yeah. We're not messing around. He is the 4-drop, is what we're saying definitively this weekend.
This is how we want to win the game.
Yep. No cruel ultimatums, no cryptic commands. This is the plan.
We've seen different finishers out of Grixis. This Blood Moon here will be cast by Brett. See, I don't doubt Michael can answer it, but he may not care. We've seen different finishers in certain situations. So the most recent one you mentioned was Pia and Kiron Nalar. Now, why would we want to make this switch if I'm playing Grixis?
So sometimes Pia does have the potential to take over a game if your opponent is on Affinity, or in fact, you get a lot of really great blocking value. If your opponent terminates the Pia, you still have the Thopters, it's just fine. But the Kalitas actually just becomes giant. The lifelink is huge. The swings are just bigger with Kalitas.
Michael, the zombie will go ahead and be eaten by Kalitas, so Kalitas will jump up to a 5/6. Now the Blood Moon resolves.
And Kalitas wasn't the card that solved this problem. This problem was solved with Pia and Kiran Nalar already. But an issue for blue-red decks for a long time in Modern is there's an inherent weakness to Abrupt Decay. Just having access to a really good threat that can't be Abrupt Decayed, not messing around with, say, Vidalcan Shackles, that was a significant upgrade to these archetypes.
Yeah, Kalitas will swing in and steal 5 life points, so now Brett down to 19, but more importantly, Michael up to 14 as he's pulling away. Yeah, sometimes we'd see something like Glenelendra Archmage as the big finisher out of a Grixis control deck.
That's a very generous use of the term big finisher, but
depending on the matchup, it could be.
Right. Against, say, Scape Shift, having that in play is very good.
Yeah, they never beat that.
Right.
Like, it's hard.
It's hard to find a window to resolve that against Scape Shift, but, you know.
Path to Exile on Kalitas. That's the answer that Brett needs. And Michael will get a zombie first. He'll Lightning Bolt away the Soul Warden.
And so
Kalitas will leave, but it's another that Blood Moon Path to Exile thing you talked about.
Well, answering Kalitas was just step 1 for Brett. That Visions is coming off suspend on the following turn.
No, Michael did not miss the Path to Exile trigger. He only plays 3. Well, there we go. Now I'll get a mountain. I'll say his three basics that are not mountains are already in play. He already has 2 islands and a swamp.
Yep. This is a pretty standard mix of basic lands for Grixis. Sometimes, you know, Kalitas is double black himself. Generally, you only need the 1 swamp, and drawing 2 is quite bad often enough.
You mentioned that this might win the game. Ancestral Visions will come off suspend. You see Michael just continues to draw cards. I believe Ancestral Visions reads, draw as many cards as you like.
No, that's not true. It doesn't draw like 12, but he did find a Kalitas, so now we're back even behind where we were a turn ago. Oh my.
Yeah, and this is what Visions does. It draws you another copy of Visions. And see, Michael's not even going to... Well, he can't actually cast any Kalitases for the rest of the game. He only has one swamp in his deck.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I guess that interaction that I just brought up, Cletus is double black. So we're putting a lot of pressure on the zombie to go the distance and say Snapcaster Mages or a Tassiger off the top.
This is interesting, actually. Okay, Tassiger could win the game. Under Blood Moon, Michael's deck, he can draw lots of cards, but winning might be a problem. And now you see Brett going for Perforos, God of the Forge.
So suddenly we're actually in trouble.
So this is really a neat interaction. This is one of the other great things that Norin does. Read that third paragraph of text on Perforos. That's the one we're going to care about. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. Now, something you've been noticing is that every time people are playing a spell, Norin keeps running away.
Well, hold on, though. Let's check the text box on Norin the Wary. Is it Static Caster comes down for Majors. It does not trigger on activated abilities.
He's not scared of those, but he should have been.
He should have been. He's scared of all the wrong things. He should be able to attack and block, but he's scared of the exact wrong thing.
Static Caster takes care of Norin. You feel like there's that time where that person who's scared of everything finally stands up for themselves and they just pick the wrong time to do it. That's what happened to Norin.
That's the problem with playing scared. It's not that it hurts you right now necessarily, but it will hurt you later.
Seal of Fire is the play for Majors, and now there's a Ranger of Eos for Brett Warriner. So he's going to find, that will deal 2 with Perforos. That'll find 2 more creatures. Is it Static Caster? That's a problem, though. That kills. Gosh,
it is.
Goodness, I'm looking at these one drops in Brett's deck. They all have 1 toughness. I mean,
it's true, but Brett is on 16, and Majors is already down to 10. There's 2 more triggers for Perforos going into Brett's hand here.
We actually have to do the entire amount of damage with Perforos, but Grixis outside of Kalitas doesn't have life gain.
And he can't cast Kalitas.
He can't cast, so 5 creatures should end the game, right? There's no, I don't think can he answer. Perforos is indestructible. Can Michael get that off the board?
No cryptic commands. That's kind of the answer. Also, no third basic island.
Yeah.
We're just behind Perforos. There's no way around that.
Michael will have to win quickly. This Blood Moon, we said it was too late. We may have spoken too early. Brett's got it with that, and Perforos now has an out.
Well, Blood Moon was technically late. Perforos was right on time. I think that's what I would say.
Another fling. The fling there was finally cast on Soul Warden. It was spell snared by Majors. And you now see, going back to Brett's turn, he's drawn Lightning Helix. That's another good spell here.
Yeah, as long as Brett doesn't just peel a bunch of lands off the top, he's in very good shape here.
Yeah, Soul's Attendant is the play for Brett. It'll deal 2. Now that he'll use Cavern of Souls to cast Norin the Wary. That one can't be countered. Static Caster. Oh yeah, it's a mountain. Apologies. So he's going to cast Norin off the mountain he has.
So
Static Caster will shoot the Soul's Attendant, but
I don't think that Majors was going to be countering that one anyway, but you're right. It is just a mountain.
Static Caster will attempt to shoot Norin. Now, Brett, this is an excellent time to fire off that Lightning Helix. He's going to let it die, though.
Yeah.
I thought if he plays Lightning Helix, Norin would run away and dodge the Static Caster, come back and deal 2, right?
Yeah, with the Static Caster tapped, I would have liked to have seen Lightning Helix there. And there is that Sacred Foundry up top, which is a which is a non-basic mountain right now. I guess it always is, but it doesn't make white mana.
And I think what would have happened had Brett played the Helix is that Michael would have had to use Seal of Fire to kill Norin the Wary. I don't think he can let it come back and deal 2 more.
Right.
So Brett down to 12. Michael is attacking with the zombie. He's got 6 more turns to go, maybe fewer.
So I was saying that what Brett has to do is not draw lands.
Yeah, well, he drew lands, and Michael just drew Ancestral Visions again, so that's 4 more cards.
There is specific pressure on Michael. He needs a Tassiger right now.
Well, he didn't have a Tasker, but he did okay. He drew multiple copies of Snapcaster Mage that turn.
That's very good. Opponent's on 10.
Ambush Viper?
Oh, yeah. You're casting it one way or the other. If you have something to flashback, great.
Here is Snapcaster Mage. Does he have a Lightning Bolt in the yard? Oh, he does. He's going to play that on step, flashback Lightning Bolt. That's going upstairs. Brett down to 7. Here's another Snapcaster Mage. This could be lethal.
And just no action again for Brett. He's still hanging on to that Helix, right? But looks like no creatures coming off the top, which is an issue.
Here's an attack for 6. It'll put Brett down to 1. He's good Lightning Helix. We'll see where it goes. If it goes at a creature, if it goes upstairs.
If he goes upstairs, then he has an option to Craig Jones and peel another Lightning Helix.
Good. Or, oh yeah, good reference. Good. That is the card. There's 1 left in his deck. He could also draw 1 of his copies of Ranger Vios. That would win.
Right. The flavor text on Lightning Helix is, of course, oh my god.
So this one, target Lightning Helix. This will stop Brett from being dead. No, he had to do this now. He's actually, no, he's helixing a Snapcaster Mage.
Ranger is still lethal, given these circumstances. We still get 3 triggers and
but
can
the other
kill
helix
Majors.
is no longer lethal.
Correct.
Brett goes to 6. 1 turn here for Warriner. His draw, it's not a land.
It's not a Helix either.
Did he do it?
Do we have Ranger?
That would be huge.
Show us.
Oh, Genesis
no.
Chamber. Oh no, that's such a good interaction with Perforos. If only we had done this
It would
a
have
turn
been
earlier.
right.
It would have been near unbeatable.
Turns ago, that would have been fantastic.
But now it's Seal of Fire's attacks, damage, burn,
no.
game, match. Michael Majors 2-0.
So that Perforos looks so good. I was scared. I was nervous for Michael, but
you know, I thought when Michael suspended that first hand Celestial Visions, there was no way that Brett was going to win this, and he really made a game of it at the end there.
yeah, that's really impressive. That is the one interaction. You know, Michael's able to deal with Genesis Chamber. He's able to deal with Champion of the Parish. There's no clean answer to Perforos. The pressure is on Michael to remove the controlling player from the game.
Yeah.